Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for a very special discussion on body composition. I'm Varun Sriram with Generation UCAN. Absolutely thrilled to be joined by board-certified sports dietitian and our VP of Nutrition, Karin Hosenfeld. Hey, Karin, how you doing this morning?
How's it going, everyone?
Awesome, awesome. So, Karen, we are going to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes here chatting with folks about how to understand their body composition assessment. Many of the people here on with us have participated in the InBody scan, either at the Boston Marathon Expo or at Fleet Feet West Hartford. So, we're going to give you folks some information on how to interpret the data, how to interpret your results, and then some strategies to understand how to improve your body composition. And certainly as part of that, we'll talk about where UCAN fits in and how it's also a powerful tool to help you achieve the body composition you want. But Karen, before we really dive into that, in your experience and in your work, just give us an idea kind of how you approach this whole idea of body composition.
Well, yeah. So I've had the chance to speak with a lot of people that have had the InBody done in person, and I always notice first off, and maybe you did this too when you got your body composition sheet, is people look directly for either their weight and or what's my body fat percentage. Sometimes men more than women. What's my body fat percentage? I love when there's a group of guys too, because they're trying to compare to each other. Maybe you guys did that too. And I try to let people know, and in fact, I flip over the page and I show them what I'm looking for as a dietitian is for actually not just your percent body fat, but your lean muscle mass. To me, that's more important at this point because what we're looking at, and this is so important, it's just a snapshot. What you're seeing on that InBody printout is just a snapshot of where you are right now. It has no worth as far as your value as a person, as an athlete. I've worked with tons of professional athletes that look at it the same way. Ooh, my body fat percentage is not where I want it to be. We look at it from a different perspective. How do we gain lean body mass? And as we do, your body fat percentage naturally comes down. So take this information as a picture of where you're at in time and know that with the changes that we're going to be talking about today, that you can actually change that and change your both your lean body mass and your body fat percentage if you're really dialed in to making some of these changes. So release the fact that it's just a number and it's just where you're starting out from.
And Karen, I think that's such a good point because today what we're really talking about is we're looking at the numbers and certainly want to give people an understanding of what the numbers mean, but it's not all about obsessing over what the numbers said. As you said, the numbers just offer a snapshot, and what we want to do today is really enhance people's understanding of both perhaps, how to affect these numbers in a positive way. Anything else that you think you'd like to speak to just in terms of the actual report? And if people have their report in front of them right now, is there anything else in looking at this report that they should know or understand?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that is really highlighted to me, and sometimes people they see their numbers and they might be embarrassed when they're talking to me about it, and I tell them, gosh, I'm not even looking at your body fat percentage or your lean body mass. I know that's going to change if you follow the advice that I give you. What I'm looking for is your basal metabolic rate, which kind of throws people because that's not what they're looking for at all. But if you start to change your lean body mass and you're matching your workouts with good nutrition, good workouts, whether they're strength workouts, endurance exercise, fitness, activities, these are things that will increase your muscle mass, decrease your body fat percentage along with, supplementation with UCAN, that it will change your basal metabolic rate is something that you can change and you have control over changing. And the higher that it is, again, don't put a number on it. Don't say, oh, my goal is to increase it by 1,000. just know that the number is what the number is, and even if it's a little increase over time, you're headed in the right direction. And that's what, when you get your follow-up scans in the future, you'll be looking for that too now. You'll be looking to see, did my basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories that I burn at rest, did that go up? And that's a huge indication that things are working and you're doing a great job.
So that's interesting, Karen, with the basal metabolic rate. So what would you say for folks? How do you impact that basal metabolic rate? Without being number obsessed and saying it needs to, change by this exact number of point by this exact number. How do you impact the basal metabolic rate in a positive way? What are things folks should focus on?
By having amazing workouts. And that does not matter if you are going to, like I said, be weightlifting, weight training, if you're going to be running 5 miles or 20 miles, whatever the case may be, you know for sure, if you know your body well and your workouts well, then you know that when you get out there, you can have kind of a half-hearted maybe 70% effort because you're tired, gassed out, your energy levels aren't there. This is what we want to solve with UCAN. If you haven't tried it before, so I'm speaking to people, maybe you started to try it, you might have tried it once or twice, and you might say, I feel pretty good, but I'm not sure. Is that the UCAN? Or the people who haven't tried it at all and they're not sure what to expect. What it will give you is a point in time during your workouts where you don't normally hit that wall, or you feel the floor drop out from underneath you, that low blood sugar feeling, maybe even hunger. When you cross that and no longer have those feelings, or at least can minimize them with the timing of the UCAN before you do your workouts and throughout the day, and we're going to talk about different ways to really dial in and use UCAN in other parts of the day as well. What happens is, especially the pre-workout one, then you end up having an amazing workout. You become more efficient, not only at your own activity and your exercise levels, but you become efficient at burning fat, which is a big, big difference and can make a big change in that basal metabolic rate that you were asking about.
And there's such a relationship between exercise and nutrition. We hear these sort of catchy sayings. You can't outtrain a bad diet. So obviously a lot of these things that, like you just spoke about, Karen, have to be done sort of in conjunction with each other. It's not just about exercising. It's about also understanding, what the nutrition you need to support your workouts is, and what the nutrition to most positively impact your body composition is. Before we dive, kind of specifically into, say, the application of UCAN, just generally speaking, how can people, as they're looking to improve their body composition, how do you suggest people think about different types of foods from a carbohydrate, protein, and fat standpoint? Can you just maybe give us a little bit of an understanding on how these different foods will impact that basal metabolic rate?
Yeah, for sure. You want to look for things that aren't raising your blood sugar. Whenever your blood sugar goes up, then you're also in a situation where insulin goes up. It's an anabolic hormone that can actually start to store body fat. So you really want to be in a situation where you're keeping your blood sugar stable. And this is a kind of a balancing act with a lot of people. A lot of people don't realize when their blood sugar is low, even during the day. You get that crash in the afternoon, which can be avoided. Lots of people tell me, I had a salad for lunch, and that's really all that they had. And they're proud of that, but we look at food a little bit different. Just a salad, for example, won't control your blood sugars. They won't keep them stable, steady throughout the day. So you want to add things like protein to that, healthy fats. When I say healthy fats, I mean things like olive oil, coconut oil, things that will promote a heart healthy diet. So these are things that in and of themselves, your healthy fats, your proteins won't raise your blood sugars, and they can actually work in conjunction with Generation UCAN. And we'll talk a little bit in a moment about how you can incorporate those, for example, into a healthy breakfast to sustain your blood sugars. And all of those things can help with exactly what we're talking about here, which is your body composition, but also your basal metabolic rate, because you're now not allowing your body to be storing the major amounts of body fat that you normally would be on our diet, which I would consider kind of a chasing diet. We're always chasing our fatigue. Who doesn't suffer from fatigue and being busy these days? We hear it all the time. And this just simply comes from a matter of being able to plan a little bit better for eating those healthier foods. And when you are consuming carbohydrates throughout the day, you're looking for things besides the UCAN, which is a healthy starch carbohydrate that helps to control your blood sugar. Outside of when you're doing UCAN, you want to choose things like whole grains, things that are higher in fiber, and lower sugar fruits. We're really looking to control, and hopefully, no added sugars. So if you're having added sugars, then you're really, again, trying to chase this feeling of low blood sugar. So we want to really avoid that. Be super dialed in with not just your workouts and not just the use of UCAN, but what does my diet look like the rest of the day as well? How am I supplementing a good diet, good healthy diet, with everything else that I'm trying to accomplish?
Karin, in your experience, you've worked with a number of different, high performance athletes, diverse types of athletes, from endurance athletes to strength and power athletes. You've also kind of everyday people with diabetes. This idea of controlling blood sugar, how aware do you think people are of the impact that blood sugar control can have on your body composition? Is this something in your experience that you felt is something that is requiring a constant education and something that people are maybe don't have an innate understanding of?
Yeah, I would say that maybe 10 to 15% of the people out there are really aware of the fact that when they do feel tired, that it could be really hunger that they're going through, that they're experiencing, and it just takes a little planning ahead of time. But they don't realize it has to do with their blood sugar. I don't know. Maybe we just get busy as a culture. Maybe we're maybe we wear a badge of honor when we say, "Oh, I haven't eaten, for 6 hours," or "I forgot to eat because I was busy," or I'm such a hard worker at my job that I'm just gonna plow through and I don't have time for lunch." These are really things that hurt us. So I would say, yeah, when people really stop and think and attend webinars such as this, when they get information of what, blood sugar is and what it can do for you and your body, and how low blood sugar can really hurt you as well, and high blood sugar doesn't help you to attain your body composition goals, then that's when I see people really, it starts to make sense for them, and that's where they become dialed in. Or they decide, well, maybe it's not worth it for me at this time, and hopefully not go down that route. That's why we really, really try and preach at Generation UCAN this overall, overarching health and well-being, not just, the workouts, but throughout the entire day.
One thing that you mentioned earlier too that was kind of an interesting way to look at it is you alluded to the fact that a lot of times people are kind of always chasing. So that might be a symptom of having those blood sugar fluctuations where you're kind of always chasing that feeling of not being tired, or your blood sugar drops in the middle of the afternoon. You're kind of chasing what that next snack could be, and not always making the right choices. So just in terms of setting you up to make better choices, is there anything you can say in terms of blood sugar control and the impact it has on people making good nutrition choices, simply, I guess, because they're not ravenous?
Yeah, the easiest thing that I can say is to think of your metabolism, because that's what we're really talking about here. We're talking about things like basal metabolic rate, lean body mass, even your body fat percentage. We're talking about your metabolism. So you want to think of your metabolism like a bonfire. If you are steadily feeding your bonfire throughout the day, and it's steadily receiving the right amount of, small, medium logs on the fire. This is where you hear eating 5 or 6 times a day, depending on the amount of activity that you're doing. And you can always get with a registered dietitian or a sports dietitian to help you to figure out exactly what your needs are. as long as you're feeding your body and that bonfire throughout the day, the bonfire is going to stay lit. And that's something that Generation UCAN does as well. When you consume that, it's steady energy. And we say that because it's slowly released over time. It could be, a couple hours energy, it could be 3 hours energy. It just depends on your own metabolism and how efficient you are with burning those fuels. And that's where it keeps it stable. And you have a perfect bonfire. If you go long periods of time and you don't feed the fire, what happens? The fire goes out. If you end up after long periods of time and you haven't fed the fire, and now you're going to feed it a big old dinner at the end of the day, and you're going to tell yourself, hey, I can afford this big dinner because I didn't really eat much the rest of the day. Guess what you're doing? Not feeding the bonfire most of the day and then dumping a whole load of logs on the bonfire. What happens then? Your metabolism, or the fire, goes out. So we really want to consider ourselves as a fat burning machine that is slowly getting that nutrition throughout the day, not too much, the right amounts, and hopefully, since you are listening to this, to incorporate UCAN into that progression of things that you're choosing throughout the day to get that slow, steady released energy as well.
So you alluded to this a few times, Karin, but just looking at the graph on the screen, this kind of highlights what you're talking about in terms of the UCAN and how it works to keep your blood sugar steady. And, for a lot of people that are looking, that are part of this webinar, or that are taking part in the challenge, and have a goal of, getting leaner, improving their body composition, there's certain notions out there that people might hear, that carbs make you gain weight, or, if carbs are only for athletes, and if you're trying to improve your body composition, you don't need carbs. But you just kind of told us that it's not really about just demonizing carbs. It's really about understanding the quality of carbohydrate and how to fit it into your day, and then also understand the blood sugar impact. So as we talk about UCAN, I just want to point to this from our initial study, that the super starch, which is the energy source, the carbohydrate in UCAN, like Karin was talking about, is very different than your traditional sugar-based sports fuels or sugar-based drinks, fast-acting energy products. So the red line on the graph shows the impact of a serving of UCAN, roughly 100-calorie serving of UCAN. As you can see, there's no big spike in your blood sugar levels, and then most significantly as well, there's no crash. So those ill effects that Karin was describing to us, kind of making the poor nutrition choices, having the low energy, perhaps not being able to exercise or train because you just don't have the energy to push yourself up. These are all symptomatic of low blood sugar, and this can all happen when we're consuming a lot of these quick acting and fast acting carbohydrates. So Karin, kind of just with that whole notion that people might have of carbohydrates not supporting an improvement in body composition, how is that something you deal with and address? Is that something that has come up a lot, as you've worked with a variety of different individuals?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the UCAN specifically, since you have the graph up here. So this study, as you know, out of the University of Oklahoma, really turned things on its head as far as the way that we think of carbohydrates. So I don't expect every person that, comes to talk to me to know even about this. What you know out there as a general public is, you flip around, you look at the nutrition facts label, and you see, oh, wow, this has 20 grams of carbs. Well, so does a large banana. And yeah, I could spend the 90 calories eating a banana. And as you know, you probably suffer from this too, be hungry an hour later. But when you have a slow, steady release carbohydrate like UCAN, what happens is, and you can see on the bottom portion of the graph, it says time in hours, it lasts such a longer period of time because it's slow and steady release, that you don't have that spike like you would see in the blue there if you're looking at that line graph, the spike that you might get from fruits or even lower fiber carbohydrates, and then the crash associated with it. So what I try and explain to people is you have a a carbohydrate with 20 grams in a shorter amount of time that'll spike your blood sugar, or you have UCAN, which lasts a lot longer, doesn't spike your blood sugar, and it's stretched out over a much longer period of time. And then suddenly I see the aha light bulb in people's eyes because they realize now we truly are talking. It's one of our buzzwords, revolutionary at UCAN, but it truly is revolutionary because now it allows you to open your mind about a different kind of carbohydrate that is completely different than anything out there. You just can't compare it to anything else. So what you have in your hands when you are using UCAN, whether it's as a meal replacement, as a snack, as your pre-workout, in order to have an amazing workout and affect your body fat composition as well. It's really revolutionary. So I'm excited for all of you that are either in the process of trying it, have just started trying it, or have not tried it yet and you're just thinking about it. I'm really excited for you because you'll see what the rest of us know too, is that clean, calm energy source that's way different than your, classic carbohydrate that you'll just see on the back of a label.
And Karin, that I definitely just here in a moment want to get into some specific ways people can implement UCAN throughout their day. But staying on this topic of exercise, since you just raised a couple points that I wanted to follow up on. So many times when we think about when people are exercising, say it's first thing in the morning, early morning before they start the day, or otherwise towards the end of the day, when they may not have eaten in 4 or 5 hours. I mean, I'm sure you've encountered this. I talk to so many people that they're rushing out of work and they're trying to figure out, what should I grab on my way out the door that's going to get me to the gym and get me through this workout. And oftentimes, we look at quick and convenient options. We've already talked about fruits. People might grab a banana. People just might grab, kind of a generic energy bar that they think, hey, I'm just getting something in my system. But you kind of mentioned this a few times, but just I'll ask you one more time. What is sort of the impact on body composition of dumping all this carbohydrate into your system right before you exercise? So basically having a banana or having an energy bar with 15, 20 grams of sugar right before you exercise. Sure, it may give you the energy to exercise, but what effect does this have if you're somebody that's really focused on improving your body composition?
Well, it might make you feel good in the short term, especially if you haven't eaten, for, like you said, 3, 4, 5 hours, and you want to make that shift. You've left work, now you want to refocus, you're thinking about your workout, your body needs some sort of fast fuel, you think. And I always say, we're not, necessarily reaching for broccoli at the time that our body is screaming out, feed me, feed me. You want some sort of fast, sugar in your body. And so a lot of times people are reaching for something like a fruit, could be a banana. I would say one of the reasons they do is because they still are thinking, well, I want to be, dialed in and this seems healthy and I'll go for that. But when you do, it's going to look like this line graph that you're seeing on your screen right now. So that could be, and we have it as a maltodextrin formula. It could also be, a fast acting carbohydrate that someone takes. It could be a different kind of bar that doesn't have what we offer you, which is that slow, steady, stable release energy. And when you have that spike, let's just say for the sake of argument, that spike or something that looks very similar to it would be a banana. So you're going to have that banana, but then quickly, it might be 15, 20 minutes into your workout or so, because you ate that banana on your commute to your gym or wherever you're going, then that banana, you've run out of fuel and you can see where it dips below the red line. That's where you're starting to crash and really hit that wall. Now, I know lots of people who work out, especially athletes. I've worked with Olympic and professional athletes, even high school athletes have this, where they just let the adrenaline push them through that workout. And they manage, and I'm not saying they don't manage, but are they having a stellar workout? And my job as a sports dietitian is to get you to have a stellar workout. And that's why this is so, when you implement something like UCAN here, and we're the only steady release fat burning carbohydrate out there, that red line is really where that rubber meets the road, where now you're able to get through a workout. It's not raising your blood sugar, not spiking your insulin, and you're able to now burn body fat stores, which we have practically unlimited body fat stores. And when you rely on that, that's when it really assists, along with the rest of a healthy diet, to really change your body composition. So if you're out there and you're looking for that X factor, the thing that you can add to your otherwise healthy diet and your training regimen, or if you've kind of hit a plateau or you're not quite sure how to change things from here, using UCAN can help, and that red line is a great indication of how that helps.
And Karin, one point you just made at the end, which I think is so significant, is that we all have, you know, enough body fat stores that to give us energy to get through these workouts. But so many times what might sabotage somebody's workout is the dips in blood sugar, which you know will make you feel fatigue. It's not that you need the calories, right, to get through the workout. It's just that you need to control your blood sugar. And so a lot of times that's where people might get in trouble in terms of feeling that energy lag in their workouts, and they might just feel like, hey, I need more. So I think that that's a really powerful kind of thing that you just raised, where you know, if you can support that blood sugar stability throughout your workout, you're not going to sabotage the body composition effect that your workout can have, and B, you're going to have the energy to get through your workout, so you simply don't have to cut it short. And that's what's so cool about UCAN. You know, a lot of times we think of like energy and perhaps fat burning as being mutually exclusive. You know, you're sacrificing fat burning when you're taking in something for energy, but with UCAN, as you laid out, that's not the case.
Well, what I would like to point out too, to kind of piggyback on that, Varn, is you don't want to get behind that eight ball when it's, you've gone, and lots of people out there, you're listening, and you probably have gone at some points a little too long without eating. What happens is, you get a little shaky and you're on your way to the gym thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just supposed to work out with a personal trainer, or I'm going to CrossFit, or I'm going to head outside now. It's beautiful weather and I'm going to head outside and I'm going to go for, my 11-mile run or whatever. And you think, there's no way that I can do this. And I haven't, eaten for a while and I'm feeling a little shaky and tired. These are the times when a lot of people might just go home and call it quits. So what I want to do is be sure that you get what you need beforehand, before you get in that situation. So after over a decade of working with some of the world's top athletes, I would tell you this: don't get in that hole where after lunch you're getting in that late 2 o'clock hour, 3 o'clock, and then into, oh, I'm thinking about closing up and heading home from work. Don't go through that period without having a healthy snack. So I want to tell you, I think some of you who have had the InBody done in person have probably heard this message, but we would highly recommend that you go for and can grab something convenient. For me, I always carry a blender bottle around with me because I shake up my UCAN, whether I put a scoop of UCAN in a baggie and take it on an airplane with me and have my blender bottle, whatever the case may be. But we actually have a solution for you that could be a little bit easier for you in your life, and that's just to throw in your desk drawer one of our UCAN bars. Now, the UCAN bars will have 15 grams of super starch in them, and I would highly recommend, especially if you get that kind of, after lunch sweet tooth and it's right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon or so, you can have a UCAN bar. It's less than 200 calories. It'll sustain you for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Again, it depends on your own metabolism. And then when it comes time to hit the gym or the trail or whatever you're going to do at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, you see, now you're not in a desperate situation. Now based on using even the powdered form of UCAN in your blender bottle shaken up with water, then okay, I can settle down and drink this, and it's going to start to slowly kick in, and I'm going to be golden by the time I get there. So in the worst case scenario, I would say definitely make sure, and maybe even in the best case scenario, because you definitely don't want to go too long without eating, but make sure you have a healthy snack. I'd recommend the UCAN bar. That's how to use it the easiest way possible. And then just have one scoop. So we're talking about, a 90 calorie scoop or so, and then a less than 200 calorie bar. And you will definitely feel a world of difference. And I say that with confidence from the hundreds of different athletes that have used the same protocol for what we're talking about.
It's a great perspective, Karen, from real world experience that you've had. So to kind of put a bow just on the first part of the discussion, I think if you guys take something away from what we were talking about, it's really stressing the importance of blood sugar control as a way to impact your body composition, both from allowing you to have better workouts and more effectively metabolize fat during exercise by controlling your blood sugar. And then you also heard, Karen describe how controlling your blood sugar throughout the day can help you make better choices in terms of avoiding cravings and kind of being prone to that mindless eating. So, as part of this whole thing, as we've talked about the application of UCAN during workouts, there's also, what makes UCAN so unique in this. I call it sports nutrition, I guess, in this context. A lot of you guys have probably seen it because you're runners and you were exposed to it at the Boston Marathon or exposed to it at the Fleet Feet store. But what's so different about UCAN compared to your gel products or your other powdered drinks is it's really not a sugar sports fuel. So, as Karen's talked about at length, it's a totally different type of carbohydrate that has much more of a general and daily application. So for a lot of you folks who are taking part in the Fleet Feet Challenge, we wanted to give you some specific ideas on how to incorporate UCAN. Karen just talked a little bit about it, but how to incorporate UCAN really at different times throughout your day to help you ultimately, improve and achieve that body composition that you're striving for. And we also do want to be very careful. We're not at all suggesting here, and I think Karen's made this clear, that UCAN should be, your replacement for all your meals. I mean, Karen, you can speak more to this as well, but we're definitely looking at UCAN as being a tool to get you between meals or to make you have more productive workouts throughout the day. But this is not, at all to suggest replace all your meals and just drink UCAN. UCAN is a very effective, slow release energy source, but you absolutely still need to get your vitamins and nutrients in the form of whole foods. So Karen, can you just kind of speak to that point, kind of how throughout your day you might, looking at this visual on the screen, how you kind of might balance your meals and also tie in UCAN as well as a way to help effectively change your body composition?
Yeah, great. So if you are wanting some really good sports performance, whether it's on your long runs or whatever you happen to be doing, then we're talking about, and I've done this for 6 years. There's almost not a day that goes by that I don't recommend UCAN to someone, even someone I'm standing in the grocery line with, because honestly, it's so revolutionary and it's helped so many thousands of athletes that I've worked with, literally, that I've seen it change people's lives. So you could use it as a carbohydrate source, and I've seen people do it throughout the day multiple times like this. But if you happen to use a scoop of UCAN before your workout, you'll notice a difference. I've never heard someone tell me, well, I just didn't notice any difference at all in the amount of workout or length of time or the feeling of just having that good clean source of energy. So that's number one. And then number two, somewhere else during the day. So that might be a scoop of UCAN as a shake in the breakfast, and we'll talk about what that looks like as well, how to apply that. So if you're doing UCAN twice, then you are in the zone, you are being mindful, you're making some plans. For example, if you have a UCAN bar as one of those two options for having UCAN twice during the day, and you have it in your desk at work, or you have it planned, well, I'm going to either have it mid-morning like is listed here in the picture, or even in mid-afternoon before I have that scoop of UCAN and head out for my workout, then it's my consideration that you are in the zone, you are thinking about it. If you are doing it 3 times a day, so for example, hey, this is going to be my carbohydrate source for breakfast. Again, we'll talk about what that looks like. Maybe a bar somewhere during the day, because it's nice to have something to chew on, and they taste so good that I know a lot of people can eat 5 or 6 of them, but we rein it into one. Just have one, and then that other time period of the day that you're going to work out. If you do that the 3 times a day, for me, I see that's when those major body composition changes occur and when you're really dialed in at an elite level. Can it still help you if you do it, once a day and you have your UCAN before you work out? Absolutely. It's just a matter of going a little bit farther that extra mile to make those body composition changes help to facilitate them, along with, as Varn mentioned, a healthy overall diet. Expect to have UCAN 2, even 3 times a day, and then just not be dialed in on the rest of your nutrition and eat whatever you want, wine and pizza and beer. So we really want to dial things in and make sure we take out, and I can't stress this enough, you take out all extra added sugars. If you're really serious on changing your body composition, we want to take out those added sugars, those simple sugars that are just not necessary. This is a great slide for your breakfast smoothie, for example. So we have a scoop of vanilla. So that that is your carbohydrate source. I want to be very clear on this. Don't make the rookie mistake that a lot of people do, which is, well, I have a scoop of UCAN and I threw in 2 cups of fruit. Don't do that. That fruit is the sugar that's going to raise your blood sugar and keep you out of the fat burning mode. So UCAN gives you, again, that steady energy over that time period that'll last you 2 to 3 hours, depending on who you are and what your metabolism is. Your fats in the avocado, again, that won't raise your blood sugar. They keep you low, stable blood sugar. The ice to keep it nice and cool. Your almond milk, there's really not any appreciable carbs or protein in almond milk, so it's not a good source of really, in general, nutritionally, anything else besides it just tastes really good. Make sure it's unsweetened, again, so you're not getting that added extra sugar. And look, we added 3 frozen strawberries, which is not enough to raise your blood sugar like that line graph we saw. So in that case, it gives you a little bit of extra flavor. And this is a beautiful example of a smoothie that you can do in the morning. And we're talking, just to be clear that you see it, 1/4 of an avocado. So what I see here is somewhere less than, I'd say, around 250, 300 calorie smoothie based on the size of your avocado. I know they can kind of vary, but a 250, 300 calorie smoothie is perfect for a lot of people in the morning, and that right there will give you a solid, and I say this through experience, not just myself but other people, a solid 3 hours worth of energy where you just don't feel like you're so starving that you can't get your work done or take care of little kids, as the case may be. So this is a great choice.
And I love, Karen, I kind of love how you went through that in detail, because I think it's important for people to know kind of the why behind what they're adding to the smoothie as well. It's not kind of just like open up your fridge and throw whatever you could think of in there. There's you've spoken a lot about kind of that balance, and even clarifying that UCAN is the carbohydrate source. That's what's going to regulate your blood sugar, so you don't need to throw in a ton of other carbs on top. And one thing I just did want to mention for people that might not be entirely familiar with the UCAN product line, you might be asking yourself, is there any protein in this smoothie? So the vanilla cream UCAN, which we're showing up here on the screen, does have the starch, the slow release carbohydrate that we spent much of this time describing, that regulates your blood sugar, or maintains your blood sugar for an extended period of time. But it also has added protein. So 1 scoop of the vanilla cream UCAN carries 7 or 8 grams of protein. So you could certainly do 1 scoop or 2 scoops depending on what you need. But I just wanted to be clear that you are getting your protein as well from the UCAN product in this case. And then, similar, like Karin just detailed for us, another smoothie recipe that you could start the day off with, just like the vanilla cream UCAN, the chocolate UCAN also has protein. We're keeping the additional carbohydrate low. That's why we're only doing 1/3 of a banana, which is, frankly, it's optional, but it will help with the flavor. And then you're getting some of the healthy fats like Karin described in the last slide. It was from the avocado. In this slide, it's from the peanut butter. So, Karin, from a smoothie standpoint, we've talked about it, kind of the way to put together a good balanced breakfast and also incorporate UCAN. If people aren't smoothie people, if they like to eat something in the morning, there's also the opportunity to incorporate UCAN as the carbohydrate portion of breakfast, say alongside with like 2 eggs and some avocado. Could you just speak to maybe that a little bit? If you still want to utilize UCAN to start the day, but you also are somebody that likes to eat to start the day? What would you suggest?
Well, let me talk to you about maybe the perspective that a lot of people can relate to as well, because I have a lot of athletes that travel too. I have a lot of high school athletes, and they're going from class to class. They don't have a blender, they can't make a smoothie. So, in that case, again, I mentioned keeping a blender bottle with you, and you can very quickly get a source of water. Blend up, and when I say shake up, I should say, a scoop of UCAN. And again, you can either have that in the packets that we sell. Let's say you're just a person that travels a lot with your work or to events, marathons, for example. I have a lot of people who just attend multiple events per year, and you're traveling, but you just don't, you can't carry a blender or whatever with you. Then have a blender bottle with you, and that you can actually just shake up wherever you are, a scoop of UCAN. I've actually put, because in the packets that we sell, it's a scoop of UCAN, scoop and a half of UCAN. So for me, I'm a little bit smaller person. I just happen to put a scoop of UCAN in a snack baggie, and then I'll put a whole bunch of those, 5 or 6 of them, depending on how long I'm going to be gone or out and about or on my trip, as it were, and I'll put those in a larger Ziploc bag, just so that they don't explode all over my my luggage. And same thing with kids in school. We have high schoolers that use UCAN in sports, and they're just taking that snack baggie, opening them up. If it's a larger football player, they might just do the whole packet, which again is a scoop and a half, and blending it in their water. And then what you're looking for, always, 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 I've said this for over a decade, is you want for that really good snack too, is a source of protein and a source of carbohydrate. In this case, we're talking about the source of carbohydrate being UCAN, because it'll be sustainable energy over a period of time. So what can be your source of protein then, if we're not talking about blending up a smoothie like this? So it might be something like a turkey jerky. It could be a bar, like they have meat bars now where you can actually buy natural meats and eat those along with your UCAN shake in your blender bottle. You can do also the nuts, and you see them, well, the picture of almond milk here. You can actually just do a handful of almonds as well for healthy fats and a little bit of fiber and protein along with it. You can actually, if you're having breakfast in the morning and you just say, I want to start my day right, but I really do like my eggs and bacon, well, then you can do that as your protein and fat source, and you can have a little shake of UCAN on the side. And when I say shake, it still might be just your blender bottle, water, and a scoop of UCAN. And I do this a lot because when I'm traveling, because on hotel buffets or places that you go, there's not a lot of good, really sustainable carbohydrate choices. A lot of them are fast sugars on those buffets. So that is literally what my plate would look like. Eggs, and my carbohydrate source is my UCAN in my blender bottle. So hopefully that gives you some ideas to start with of how you can use like real foods and also UCAN on the side.
And Karin, I've heard a few people kind of just describing, excuse me, describing what you just spoke about, in terms of the eggs, and then in conjunction with just the UCAN and water, kind of talking about it as the protein and fat. In the case you mentioned, the eggs and bacon are what's going to fill up your stomach and control that stomach hunger. And then the slow release carbohydrate from UCAN is what's going to regulate your blood sugar and control that brain hunger. So you're kind of attacking it, I guess, in two different ways, preventing yourself from making stress-based food choices because your blood sugar drops, and then also preventing your stomach from grumbling, which, just a scoop of UCAN on its own isn't going to fill up your stomach, but combined with protein and fat in the way you've described, it can be really, really effective. And I just wanted to add one more thing for everybody that's on here. I will, as part of this follow-up, when I send out this recording, I will send a couple blog posts out that Karin's written to just describe, she was talking about the turkey jerky and some other, food-based snacks outside of UCAN that you can have. So she's got a couple great blog posts, both in terms of great breakfasts and eating on the go as well. That'll give you guys some other ideas that fit the principles that Karin's been describing in terms of controlling your blood sugar. So Karin, just a couple more minutes here, and then we'll wrap up. I just, we've talked a lot about the UCAN powders and how to utilize them, and there's two different formats of the UCAN powders. There's the UCAN with the added protein, which we've talked about as combining with your smoothies. There's also just the UCAN with the starch only, the carbohydrate only. That's really the key ingredient across the UCAN products, our super starch, which is in the protein UCAN powders, the regular UCAN powders, as well as the UCAN snack bars. So the UCAN products with the starch only without the protein, those are going to be great to use as Karin described, alongside a protein and fat-based breakfast or prior to your workouts. The UCAN with protein is something that you can, incorporate into your smoothies. And the UCAN snack bars, Karin, you talked a few different times about how to use this, but just wanted to put up a couple of visuals. So, a UCAN snack bar mid-afternoon, you talked about having it in your desk drawer, at work. That's certainly a great option to 3 p.m. to prevent those mid-afternoon lows and that mid-afternoon snacking. And then after dinner, a lot of people, maybe to end us, Karin, a lot of folks will be prone to sitting at night in front of the TV before they go to bed, consuming large amounts of calories right before they sleep. How can the UCAN bars, you mentioned they taste great. There's some great chocolatey flavors as well that could substitute as a dessert. How do these fit in for folks that do find that they're doing a lot of late night snacking?
Yeah, it's if I had a dime for every person who told me, "Wow, I really eat so good during the day. I'm so proud of myself." And then I get home and it's chocolate and wine, and then it leads to more chocolate and wine, or whatever your vice might be. I have a lot of, bigger guys that are former NFL players who eat a lot of ice cream, and they'll sit down and tell themselves, "I'm not going to eat the whole thing," and then they do. So what we're looking at and what I've noticed is sometimes if you are choosing a healthy snack during the afternoon, and like I said, it could be a variety of different things, just so that you're not ending up after your lunchtime and that big bulk of time during the day before you head out to go home, whether you're going to do your run then, or if it's just a stressful eating environment for you because you haven't, or you've gone so long and haven't eaten anything. You have a healthy snack there, and you just say, well, maybe I would save my UCAN bar, the one that I'm going to have per day, for after dinner. And the way that I recommend to use it for that is, if you eat it, then this is what I've just recommended across the board for years with people since the UCAN bars came out. Thank goodness they did, because people that I work with now crave them like Pavlov's dog. They love their UCAN bars. Many of them taste like dessert. The cinnamon swirl, I know, is a big popular one with people that I work with. And that one, I just, tell people 1 hour after dinner, you take it out of the wrapper, you heat it up 10 to 12 seconds, and it's nice and warm and soft, and it tastes like a cinnamon roll. For people, it honestly does serve as a dessert for them. But the great thing is about it, like I mentioned before, we're talking under 200 calories, and suddenly, because it helps to stabilize your blood sugar sustained over time, what I'm noticing is people's cravings are they're out the door. It's not an issue anymore for many people that I work with, even the big guys that I work with, that you would think, goodness, there's no way that this could sustain them that long, but they just feel this sense of calm, that they don't feel like they still have cravings for sweets and things after dinner. And the longer that you continue a habit like that, the longer it becomes ingrained, and that habit produces healthy results. So it's just, again, a fact of being dialed in. How bad, do you want to really get what you're trying to achieve?
Awesome, Karin. Tons of great information. We'll really appreciate your insights. I'll just take folks through a couple summary slides, and then we'll wrap this up. So, really from a body composition and maintaining energy, blood sugar control standpoint, the key times to use UCAN that we outlined today were pre-workout, mid-morning and mid-afternoon, to help regulate your blood sugar and control those cravings. And really that last point is really any time that you have cravings, it's a good time to think about incorporating UCAN into your day. As a pre-exercise food choice, UCAN will allow you to maintain blood sugar during exercise. So this means that your body is better able to burn fat, like we talked about, rather than just burning off that excess carbohydrate or sugar that's entered your system. It's also really powerful. We didn't talk about this so much, but when you have steady blood sugar post-workout, like for example, if you don't eat anything before you work out, your blood sugar might really drop by the end of the workout, and then you just may be prone to kind of sabotaging the benefits of exercise by being really hungry and ravenous. When you use UCAN before your workout, because it lasts so long and sustains you so well, it really helps prevent that low blood sugar feeling after exercise. So UCAN is a really powerful pre-exercise food choice, and that can positively impact your exercise performance and body composition. And just finally, as a summary, UCAN sustains your energy and it curbs brain hunger that we talked about by stabilizing your blood sugar. So pairing it with protein and healthy fats that help curb stomach hunger, really makes it a very powerful combination. And Karin spoke about that at length. Certainly, it can help you transition and reduce your refined carbohydrate intake. So again, I want to stress this: we're not saying UCAN is the miracle that sit on your couch all day, just drink UCAN and you're going to magically get results. It's really something that as you evaluate your day and figure out where you have energy lulls and where you might be prone to cravings, where you might be consuming a lot of processed or refined carbohydrates, swapping those out with UCAN, or strategically implementing UCAN, can help you in a big way. And then, like we talked about as part of breakfast, adding UCAN to a protein shake will extend the effect of the shake and keep you full longer. And that, again, ties back to the ability of UCAN to maintain blood sugar. So, at its simplest, UCAN behaves like a fiber, in the sense, that fibrous foods like vegetables, these aren't going to raise your blood sugar. So UCAN does that as well. But where it's different is that it's also absorbed as energy. So it's going to sustain your blood sugar for a lot longer than a fiber. We've talked about the impact of brain hunger in terms of steady blood sugar. UCAN is a carb that doesn't store as fat. It allows your body to use fat as fuel. And that all comes back to this final point, which is really the big key in what we were talking about today, whether it comes back to UCAN or it's tied into the foods that you're going to be consuming, to positively impact body composition. You want food sources that give you energy without raising your blood sugar or your insulin. And, UCAN is a great tool to do that. And hopefully Karin was able to give folks a lot of other great tools outside of UCAN to do that as well. So with that, really want to thank everybody for joining us today. You'll definitely, if you're interested in taking part in the Fleet Feet Challenge, you will be receiving some more specific info about that for all of you that signed up for this through Fleet Feet. So you still have the opportunity to take part in that challenge, through the end of the week. So stay tuned for a full recording of this and more info on the challenge. And for those of you that met us at the Boston Marathon, you'll also be getting a recording of this, along with some of the blog posts that I mentioned from Karin, giving you some different tips on how to impact your body composition and eating on the go as well, which is something that a lot of us have to figure out how to do in a positive manner. So with that, Karin, anything else that you'd like to add to close us out on?
Just to give you guys some positive energy that you can do it, and just to take a little bit of time. It doesn't take much time. Do a little planning on the weekend. You can start planning now and think about what are you willing to do, to change your diet around outside of the UCAN, as well as the 2 ways during the day. Based on everything you've seen here, what are the 2 ways that you could best possibly fit UCAN into your lifestyle, and see again how that helps you along with the rest of your regimen to really help you to get to where you want to be. And I just wish you luck, because it's pretty exciting and you guys are in a special group of people that are really trying to make some positive changes in your life. So congratulations on that, and I look forward to hearing how you're doing out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karin. Appreciate the time and insight. For board
Thank
certified
you.
sports dietitian Karin Hosenfeld, I'm Varun Sriram. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.